As you listen to the presentation today on To Clothe the Naked, I thought how appropriate it is in what you're doing in the Lenten season, because just yesterday I finished a book entitled 1,000 Wells. Maybe some of you have heard of it or even read it, written by a young woman who made it a point to take on a very big project to repair or dig or provide filters for 1,000 wells in Central and Eastern Africa. And she was successful over about a 6-year period, mainly due to a rock group that she was associated with, and they made that project their own. And so from a very humble beginning, she was able to do one of those corporal works of mercy, to give drink to the thirsty. A young father was putting his little girl to bed one night and tucking her in, and for the bedside story that night he chose the gospel that I just read, the gospel of the prodigal son. And he read it to her just as I proclaimed it to you a moment ago. And as every parable means a story based on real life, not necessarily a real story, but based on real life, but always with a lesson. And so he asked his daughter, what do you think the lesson was to the story of that son who was welcomed back by his father, and who had lived a life of poor living and destitute and hungry and feeding the pigs and hoping that he could get even what the pigs had to eat? And she thought for a minute and she said, it's sort of like American Express. Don't leave home without it. He didn't have an American Express card. He didn't have people that took care of him once he spent all his money. They were with him when he had money, but they were gone when he didn't. But he had a loving and a forgiving father. And my brothers and sisters, this afternoon, as we celebrate this liturgy, we're reminded that it could easily have been entitled not the prodigal or the wayward son, but the forgiving, merciful father. But like the older son, maybe sometimes we feel like he did. How come you're doing this for him who wasted all your money? And now you welcome him back with a big celebration. You clothe him in beautiful clothes, put a ring on his finger, and have a party. He was angry, and we might also be in a very human sort of way. But indeed, the Father was a father in the image of God. Everybody can stand in need of forgiveness. Remember the purpose of this parable, this story today. Jesus was eating with tax collectors. He was eating with people on the margins. He was eating with sinners, prostitutes. And so he gave the story of the parable son. And the people who were the leaders of the community said, doesn't he know the kind of people he's dealing with? Doesn't he know, in accepting an invitation to their house, who he's going to be meeting? And the Pharisees, who were the leaders of the people, were good people. They were very law-abiding, following the law of Moses. They were generous to the poor, generous to the temple or the synagogue. They were oftentimes exemplary in their life. But Jesus was a curiosity to them. He was a rabbi, a teacher, but he was also a healer and a performer of miracles and all these wondrous things, and people were following him. And they couldn't quite figure him out. Jesus eats with these people that we wouldn't even cross the street to talk to. And Jesus criticized them for their judgmental attitude. Because he said, every single one of us is like that prodigal son. Every single one of us, great or small, doesn't have to be big things, stands in need of forgiveness. And so we're in the fourth Sunday of Lent, the halfway period of this wonderful ancient season. And we may have lived our Lenten promises well or not so well, but it's a time for us to regain that early enthusiasm for renewal, reconciliation, change of heart, to be like the loving Father, and to know that there are many people, perhaps in our own circumstance, family, life, school, neighborhood, who might stand in need of our welcoming them, of throwing our arms around them and saying, you're not so bad. Welcome back. We are called to be more loving in Lent, more forgiving in Lent, and not to grow in a spirit of pride or superiority or one-upmanship about the others, but to be a spirit of welcoming, in a spirit of mercy, in this year of mercy. And so, my brothers and sisters, Jesus suffered and died for all of us, and we have no hope except in his mercy. He was willing to go to the cross in order that you and I might know the welcome that Father extended his wayward sons. He throws his arms around us, particularly in the sacrament of penance, of reconciliation. But he throws his arms around us and says to us, as the Father said to his Son, welcome home. Just before communion today, we'll use the words that the centurion, the Roman officer, used when he asked Jesus, please cure my servant. He's suffering. He's going to be dead shortly. And Jesus said, I'll come down to your house and do it. No, I'm not worthy. It's not you. I am not worthy to have you enter my house. Only say the word, and he will be healed. And it happened. None of us is worthy. That son wasn't worthy. The older boy wasn't worthy of his pride, his arrogance, his selfish heart. But God forgives us nonetheless. And we'll pray in the Our Father, forgive us our trespasses as we forgive others. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.